friend Eric Skokan, who's the chef, the owner, the farmer, Black Cat Organic Farm, Bramble and Hare in Boulder, Colorado. Eric, so good to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you.
So we were joking about it, but very, very true, very real in this moment that 2 days ago on Wednesday evening, I would have been heading up, my family and I, Betsy and the boys, would have been getting in the car, driving up to Boulder to one of the best farmers markets anywhere in the country that I've been, to buy always some pork, some greens, and whatever other goodies you have at the farm stand. And it struck me that we weren't going to be able to do that. So that's what I really want to talk about, everybody, is we're going to talk about farmers. We're going to talk about the importance of farmers. And we're going to talk about, in this moment, we're thinking a lot, myself included, about restaurants. And that is such a big part of our community. That the farmers right now are struggling, they're hurting, they have delicious food for us, and we need to spend our money now where we want to spend our money later to support those people and those companies. So Eric, you are speaking for the farmer right now, and I'm excited because you bring not only a perspective as a farmer, but as a chef, so you see the whole ecosystem in a very different way. Now, take us back. You have wildly successful restaurants, and successful is crazy. You worked ridiculous hours and had delicious food, and lots of people paid attention. Yet, wildly successful, I don't know what that means in a restaurant. Yet, amazing restaurants, Black Cat Bistro and Bramble and Hare. We always had great experiences there. And you went off the deep end and decided, I'm going to start growing all my own food, raising my own livestock. Talk about that pivotal, that seminal moment for you as a chef into a farmer.
Well, right, for every chef out there, like you think of like, all right, I'm going to do this great dish, and blah blah blah, and you put your orders, and the food comes in, and you open up the box, and you're like, man, I can't wait to cook this dish I've been thinking about, and then you look inside the box, and you're like, oh man, that's horrible. How am I supposed to cook with that? Let alone like make people excited about it, or whatever. And so, and I juxtapose that, stuff that I would get in to cook in the restaurant with the stuff that I was growing in my own garden at home. And I've been a gardener, like forever. My parents' garden, my grandparents did a lot. We're all a big gardening family or whatever. But I think the stuff I have in my garden is awesome. And I get to eat great at home, but my customers don't or whatever. And so that was like the seed idea, and then pretty soon it just became this like slippery slope where the garden turned into a bigger thing, and then turned into a bigger thing, and then a bigger thing, and now it's in 125 acres, and and I'm on the tractor more than I'm in the kitchen. Certainly in the summertime, there's a lot of stuff to take care of out in the field. So, it's been a great life. The food in the restaurant has been, is awesome. Restaurants are closed now, which is, super sad. We're busy though. I've centered my life around food, and, it's just like I've switched from food in this hand in that hand, or whatever is kind of the juggling that we've ended up doing, and we're feeling good. We're busy, which is good, and we're my inner drive to make people feel taken care of, which I used to do in the dining room. I still get to feed that. But now I'm doing it at our farm stand, handing out bags of arugula and bunches of carrots and, stuff like that, and talking about recipes and, getting people jazzed to cook at home. I've been thinking like, all right, this is our one opportunity, all the chefs in the world, this is our one opportunity to like get the whole country on the same page on braising. Like, we're all going to be great at braising because finally we all at home have enough time to make a really great braise, or like, master duck confit, which is something you could never, no one ever does that at home, but now we can all do that. And, and I envision, when things turn back to normal, how much better, more intelligent food wise all of the customers are going to end up being from having lived through this, just really horrible experience. That, maybe that for me is the silver lining, that we can, recipe by recipe, batch of chuck by short rib, we can, make the world a better place, over time or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm deluding myself. I don't know.
You are so right. I mean, is that going to be a challenge? Hell yeah, that's going to be a challenge.
Sure.
Is everybody on board with that? Nope. Most people aren't paying attention at all yet. You are going to connect with that small community that's going to connect with the larger community that's going to connect with the larger community. Like it's planting one seed at a time for sure, to throw a goofy analogy out there, but it's true. Like it really is true. And so just the fact that you've done it and seen it and been through it, when I talk with you at the farmer's market, like I want to just like paint a picture for people. You have a simple, unassuming stand. It's grown over the years. I mean, I remember the first time you had like a couple, small garden items, and then you always had the mule foot, right? Was the first pork that I remember. And it was the first time I'd had mule foot as well. So that was special for me. So much fat, which as chefs really love. And then it's grown and grown and grown. And so, and you're not out there like big, bombastic, being like, come try this, come try that. You're very measured, very thoughtful, very cerebral in your communication. And you just start talking about your produce, and it's like, I need that. Like, I really need that. And so I appreciate that. That is an important part that we forget, is like when you're going to the grocery shelves, that produce doesn't speak to you, because there's not a human right there speaking through it, for it, with it, because it's been there. So like, I really want people to understand that. Go to Boulder when we're up and running again. Go to Black Hat Organic Farm stand. Talk to Eric for 72 seconds about produce or hog. You'll be fired up to cook. So I want people to know that. And I believe that for those farmers anywhere you are. If you're on the East Coast, West Coast, if you're in Florida, if you're in Arizona, find a farmer. You will love cooking food more. I think talking to a farmer, I'm more inspired about food than I am talking to chefs, because it just feels so natural, your connection. So I'm rambling, but I really want people to know how important it is. So you mentioned and thinking about what happens next. Talk a little bit about, in this moment, how important it is to support a farmer, to find an opportunity to go get some produce, to throw just a couple bucks even of the money that you may or may not have, but to invest in something that matters so much, like farming and farmers.
Yeah, I mean, where the food, sort of movement, what's going down with restaurants right now and has been for the last 10 years has been, earned for a decade or two on, by the risk taking of, chefs who are out there, and then the other people who wear their hearts on their sleeves. So it's the wineries, it's the food producers, the cheese makers, that, we're all in it. We're all in it together. We all have the same dream of being in love with the things that we get to work with all the time. It's the same passion, whether it's, making cheese, or driving the tractor to grow the carrots, or making the souffle. Like, metaphorically, it's all the same thing together. And the bomb went off in the restaurants, and it's very clear it's desolation in all the restaurants. But it didn't stop there. When that bomb went off, it's going to wave through the whole of the industry, every part of it. No one's left untouched. So the cheesemongers, the cheesemakers, they're not selling their stuff. The fisherman who was making the catch and getting it FedExed into your restaurant, like 12 hours after it left the water, that's not fishing right now, right? It's every bit of it, all of it. And all of us love food, so it's not like we all get hungry, right? It's just that the way we went about it, going to the restaurant, that's the part that ended. But that doesn't mean that that we can't support those other cheesemongers, the local farmers, like all those people, still need their businesses to operate, and we're still hungry, and we still love the same foods and stuff. So, and it's all about, the dollars moving through right now. Like what's going down, like right now out in the fields is that, your local farmer is making the biggest bet of their entire life. They're pulling money out of their bank account to, pay their farm staff to get the crops in the ground, which all has to go in right now. They're like basically leveraging their entire life to hope that there's going to be a great harvest later on in the season in July and August, September, and whatnot. And frankly, that's an ugly looking bet right now. That hope and faith is basically all that the farmer has to go on. And if we want to see that harvest come in September, the absolutely the best way to make that happen is to go buy a bag of spinach, this month. Go buy the first of the sugar snap peas when they come out. Go buy, the first bag of arugula, and get a few dollars into the pocket of a farmer, in your area, because it's, it's a smart farmer probably would hedge their bets and just not grow a lot of stuff and take the losses and blah, blah, blah. But they, that would be horrible for us. Not only it's horrible right now, but then think about, down the road in September, that, it would be bad for us then. And so if we want that world, then we need to create it right now. And here's my little personal motto or whatever, what drives me, that I'm a dad. I have 4 kids and I love them dearly. And I believe it's my mission to create the world that I want my kids to have. So that's what I do. That's my work right now, is creating this food world, making the world a better place, for them to be able to inherit. And we can all do that right now by buying a bag of spinach, literally buying a bag of spinach, which would help create the world that we want to see in September. It's as simple as that. It's none of this is rocket science. And if we want to see it all go away, it's fine. We can do that. And if we want to, cultivate, the beauty that's going to happen later in the year, then let's do it right now.
Eric, you're preaching. I love it. This is so important. And I want to hover on this for a moment because it cannot be understated how important it is. Things like that, making the world a better place for your kids. A lot of us, myself included, we pay lip service to that. We have half-hearted measures. We do different things. We have an impact and stuff. But the lifelong commitment of getting your fingers into the soil day in and day out is at a completely different level. So from me to you, much respect on that front. I also want people to recognize this. Chefs play an important role. Restaurants, community building, the way that they introduce us to new people, new cultures, new ideas, new ingredients, all these things, they crystallize memories. We've had, weddings at restaurants. We've had anniversaries, job promotions, all these moments are really our shared history. And so they're important. However, without a farmer, you don't eat. You can go without a restaurant. It would not be a world I'd want to live in, but you could. You could not go anywhere without a farmer, without growing food, which I also highly recommend that people grow their own food if you have the capacity. And we see that playing out a little bit more, but you could not. So the role that you play in just our humanity cannot be understated. So I think that's important. I want to touch on, yes. And I'll pause there and we'll have a moment of silence for all the farmers that are struggling right now. Because I'm serious.
That's true.
You are playing such a long game that even in restaurants, we just can't understand that we're thinking about how are we going to manage payroll for the next 2 months to get 100% forgiveness for PPP, you're like, how am I going to exist in September? Because I need to either plant everything now or nothing now. It's a completely different long game. So I want people to recognize the seriousness, the severity of the situation and the decision you have to make. Now, I want to connect the dots a little bit to what I just said. You are in a very unique position because you are a chef. You're the owner of most of restaurants. You are the farmer. You are thinking about that supply chain, that ecosystem in a completely different way because it's not pen to paper like it is for a lot of us planning out our menus. It for you is like the actual work that you're doing day in and day out to actually connect the dots. So just give us a little high level of what that is like for you to connect those dots.
Well, the two go together, surprisingly well. In other words, like when one is a chef who is focused on seasonality, kind of get a sense and things should be arriving and whatnot. And there's the reverse engineering part that ends up happening to figure out when it needs to be planted, all that kind of stuff. I think obviously what I do is the epitome of chaos. Where I have so many balls in the air, all at the same time and all that kind of stuff. And, thank God for the people that are working with that, we're like team jugglers, so we're all juggling together or whatever, which is awesome. But,
okay. Yeah.
I think chefs get it more so than people in other industries, in that ultimately what we're doing when we supply the restaurant is a lot of chaos, and it's like the orders coming in and you've got 15 things or 20 things going on in your mind at the same time. And that's really what a small organic farm is like. You're just juggling balls and you have all these things going on. The timeline is really different. Like I started sweating about the tomatoes in January that I'll be harvesting to make our own tomato sauce in September. Like in January, I'm like, oh my God, I'm behind. I'm 2 weeks behind, or I need to be doing A, B, and C or whatever. But now that I've done this for more than a decade, I thank God I'm able to see the patterns that flow in the seasons, and how this thing ebbs and then flows, and it works into the next thing, and then into the next, and into the next. And now there's sort of a calmness to it. It's like, I went surfing, for the first time with my kids, and I was gulping a lot of water. It was really comical. And I look over after I'm, spitting up seawater on the shore, and I look at somebody who's done it for a long time. It's beautiful. And I think, how do they do that? It's chaos. Like, how do they do that? And I'm kind of there now, thank God, with the growing and the cooking and whatnot. And the surfing metaphor is really, sort of the way it is. Like, there's no, farming and restauranting, when you put all of that stuff together, it's too chaotic. There's no spreadsheet, broad enough to be able to detail it all and plan it. You just can't do it. Or at least I can't do it. No way. And it really is a lot like surfing, where, you have the farmer vision, and you're thinking about, how you're going to grow these things and whatnot. And then you have, the chef vision about, how you're going to utilize things and catch that moment of flavor, each time. And, and thank God I was a chef, for a really long time, 15 years before I ever got on a tractor. So I really had a sense of, of how it, it all works and whatnot. But in the end, it's like being that surfer on the longboard, gliding through the waves. It's beautiful when it all works out, really, really well. It's really fun.
I love that, because you, like me, are a native Southern California boy. And so that metaphor is life. You know what? Total tangent, but I always joke about dream job is to be a weatherman in San Diego, where we grew up, because you get paid six figures to go, it's 72 and sunny. Back to you, Bob.
Right.
That's pretty much all that you say. You pretty much give high tide, low tide, and swells. That's like your job as a meteorologist in San Diego. So sidebar, inside joke, apparently. But I think it's important because, look, you clearly are connected to the land, to the soil itself to the ocean, all these things in a very meaningful way. And so it's not just something you pay lip service to. It's like you're committing so much of your time, your emotion, your energy, and a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money that it takes to manage that operation. And so, like people just have this image of like, oh, the farmer on his farm, and he's just, he's the salt of the earth and just out here, doing what they love, and they're hardworking and all this, but they're kind of, I don't know, fuddy-duddy, and they're not like in the capitalistic game like some of the others are. And like, no, you are running projections on financials based on seasons, based on the availability of a whole bunch of supply chain items, based on the expectations of chefs in 5 months. And then you go, God, chefs, they're like, I want this ingredient right now because I saw an article about it, but the article was written 6 months ago and they finally just published it. That ingredient doesn't exist right now. Like, it's not going to be available September, but I want it right now because somebody cool is you like that. And it's just like, how do you manage that, Eric?
Yeah, it's I was that guy. I was that guy, and I'd go to the farmer's market. I'd be super excited about some dish, and then and ask 50 different farmers in a row, hey, can I buy this? Hey, can I buy that? Or would you grow that for me? And invariably, they'd all say, no, it doesn't work that way. And I found that so frustrating. And then I'd go back to the restaurant and open up that crappy box of produce and go, oh God, right? And and anyway, yeah. So long story short, that's how I became a farmer. But really, the secret to the whole thing is this. That first really, really good peach that you eat at the beginning of the season. When it's super juicy and you take a bite and it's like dripping, down all over the place. And you're like, oh my God, that's a peach, right? That, if that shouldn't be a one-time thing for just the one peach. It's the first of the plums and it's the first of the apples. It's the first asparagus of the year. It's that spinach in March and April is its own world. It's fundamentally different, fundamentally better than all the rest of the spinach you'll have for the rest of the year. That first really good bite of spinach that's been out in the snow, that harvested 2 days after it was dumped on in snow, is so good. It's so crazy good. So for the chef, I think the key thing is hold off until it's ready and don't put it on the menu yet just because you saw it in the New York Times article. As sexy as that New York Times article was, and I'm drawn in and drooling reading those articles. I get it, but hold off until it's peak, and then fall in love with it. Do something that's crazy delicious with it, and frankly, that can just be something really simple, right? Because it's so good. And then wait till the next thing hits its peak, and then you eat that, right? And that's the secret. At least for me, that's how I write the menus, and that's how I think about stuff, is catching this peak, and then the next peak, and then the next peak, and then the next peak. And I'm often asked, right, Eric, what's your favorite? You got to have an absolute favorite vegetable, blah blah blah. And I don't. It's all of them, and I wait all year long until it's ready, and it's that first peach moment. That's what I'm looking for. It's the first cherry tomato, warm from the sun, still, and I'm standing right next to the plant, and I eat it, and it just explodes in your head, and you're like, oh God, I haven't had a fresh tomato in 6 months. So good, right? And I get goosebumps. I love it, right? And that stuff just drives me out in the field. I just I fall in love with this little tiny baby carrot that's this big and it's bursts with flavor, or the first pea out of the field or whatever it is. I just I'm so fortunate. I love what I do. I'm super lucky.
Eric, people, what did I tell you? This is what I'm missing. This is what Wednesday of this week I would have been yep, I need that. Okay, give me that. I want that carrot. I need that tomato, anything. Obviously not tomato right now, but that's it. Eric, You make spinach sexy, my friend. That's not
sexy. Spinach at the right time of the year is so good. And, and this is the crazy thing. Everyone's like, oh, kale. Oh, I'm so done with kale. I'm so done with kale. Kale right now is awesome. Kale is harvested when it's really cold. And then to prove it, go to your local farmer. If it's cold where you are, if it's in Florida, then ignore. You can just hit mute and ignore everything I'm saying. But if it's cold where you are, go to the farmer, buy some kale today, tomorrow, and chew on the stem. The stem is phenomenal. Kale stems? Kale stems. They're delicious. They're just so good. And then interestingly, May 15th, June 15th comes around. You try the same kale stem, and all of a sudden it tastes like aspirin. Like you're chewing a terribly bitter. It's horrible. Who in the heck ever eats kale? Kale's rotten. But no, it's just that it's out of season. Or it grows, but it's just not very good. And what's the point in eating, stuff that's not very good?
We do it all the time. That's crazy, but we do it all the time. That's exactly it. It's just it's capturing these moments, and we talk about that in hospitality a lot, don't we? Is capturing these moments, the opportunity to heighten experience, to be aware of the nuance in every interaction that you have with a guest, every interaction that you have with a pan and an ingredient in the kitchen. The moments that pass that are fleeting within produce is crazy. And when we talk about it, we talk about those first asparagus, the ramps, there's this tiny little 3 ingredients, the fiddlehead ferns in the spring after we've been waiting for these ingredients. That happens every day, all year long for different crops. If you were just paying attention, if we weren't thinking in such a monoculture way from an agricultural standpoint, but part of the reason is it's a byproduct of us also thinking so linear when it comes to the products that we are going after. So, man, I could just talk about spinach with this man all day long. I am so glad that I got to do that. All right, a couple things. You started a farm stand. You teased me with that right before we went live. I'm excited to hear about that selfishly.
Yeah.
I hope nobody else goes so I get to buy all of your produce, joking. But tell us about that for sure. I really want to hear about that because I need that in my life right now, Eric.
Yeah, so man, we're doing really well and having fun. All right, so the bomb goes off, the restaurants get closed. I laid off 30 employees. Just nausea. It was just a kick in the stomach and miserable, and just filled with anxiety. And but all at the same time, and I'm growing that we need to be I need to move it to the restaurant. That's our business model. Is I grow this stuff over here, and then the customers come and we sell it over there, and it has to work together and whatnot. And so it's not like we were out of food. We had a lot. We just our way of selling it didn't exist anymore, and so we started this farm stand, and we did it almost like a pop-up thing. And of course, you never know if it's going to be successful or if it's going to be a failure or whatever. And it's still snowing outside. It's still cold, and we're thinking, but when the ship goes down and you're pitched into a raging sea, grab onto any piece of flotsam, a life preserver, whatever you can grab, right? So you can stay afloat. And that was my idea. It's all right, this is a life preserver that can maybe hold on to for a while in the sea and stuff. But the customers started coming, and then it was really heartening, really wonderful. Customers, masks and gloves and the whole 9 yards, standing in front of them, texting their friends or calling their friends oh my God, Black Hat Farm, they just started a farm stand. You have to get here, and they got spinach, and they got arugula, and they have carrots, blah, blah, blah. They have all this stuff. And all of a sudden it was people start showing up, and more people start showing up, and all of a sudden it goes, and it's huge and it's beautiful. And we started selling prepared foods. My chef de cuisine is back. Sous chefs all are back. All of the cooks. Now all of a sudden, out of the 30 people, we've got 27 of our staff is back, and we're, we kind of joke around in the restaurant that we're not a restaurant anymore. We're like a grocery store. Like we're making, homemade fettuccine with our wheat and our eggs, and we're making marinara sauce, and we're selling the raw, produce, and we're doing the prepared foods. And pastry chef Anna is back, and she's killing it. She's full production. We're actually having to hire from outside now to meet the production, right? And it's, I get goosebumps when I think of how fortunate we are to be supported by our community. We're really, really lucky. And now, the farm stand is full on. And once I got my head up out of the water, and it could, and I'm holding on, I was able to see, these other small producers sort of out in the sea as well. And, and then we're getting them now into our lifeboat, the honey guys, some other local people who produce wheat. We have a really spectacular guy who does blue corn tortillas, who, they're going to be selling now at our farm stand. Eggs. My friend Walt, all of his restaurant customers, everyone disappeared, and he's got, talk about a nightmare for Walt. Fair Farms is his farm. Hundreds and hundreds of chickens producing eggs. This is peak egg season, and all of a sudden, all the customers go away because everyone's closed, and an egg avalanche. Like he's just swimming in a sea of eggs. Like, what am I going to do, right? And then the little farm stand that could, comes along, and first it's like, we're selling a couple dozens, and then now it's a couple cases, and now it's now we're selling 26 cases of eggs a week for Walt, and he's like up out of the water and doing fine, right? His business is almost back to normal, and thank God, because I don't produce enough eggs to operate the restaurant. I have to have Walt, producing for us. I can't. My restaurant can't function without Walt and I in a partnership, to make the egg things happen. Sorry, one guy, right? I got one more, in. And anyway, so like bit by bit, we're putting it all together. And then the farm stand experience is not, like the farmer's market. It's, everyone's in masks. Everyone's 6. We have stations, like you have a line over here and then another one over there, and everybody's 6 feet apart. And thank God it's a big farm, so our lines end up being really long, but we can spread out, right? And and then we have this broad variety of things that are prepared and frozen, lamb curry or whatever. All the way through the bags of spinach and the arugula and all the root vegetables and and that sort of thing. And it's sustaining. It's sustaining for us, thank God. It's sustaining for some of the other small producers, some of the other small farmers in our area. Thank God. And then it's sustaining for our community. We're getting bags of really amazing produce into the hands of people who really need it. And it's direct, and then all through all of that on that, for me on that really deeply selfish level, it feeds my soul. Like I love taking care of people. You hand the bag of spinach out and you see the relief. They're like, oh, thank God, this is going to be really good. And then that just, oh man, I love that. That feeds me from within. I love it. It's really
27 of 30 people back to work. Unbelievable. Hiring more people. Definitely going to share that with some people because daily I get hit up from people needing work. Who are a couple of other producers? You said Fair Farms, but I'd love to hear some of those producers or just any other farmers that you see out there hustling or being creative, innovative like you. I love that in this moment, the potential for social media and technology to have such a massive positive impact when a lot of times it's easy to say farming and technology are at odds with each other because people are focused on technology, not on the land, things like that. So I appreciate that. But tell us a couple of the other farm or vendors that you have or other farmers. I'd love to give shout outs to some people to look at the hard work that's happening.
you know, greatness only comes when you have a big team, right? And so greatness and for food in our region, in our food shed needs, you know, a whole bunch of really, you know, really talented people. So there's Christian Tui and Sons Family Farm. It's a little north of us. My neighbor Marcus McCauley, who's killing it. He's just does a great job with Picafor, which is a sort of a fermented vegetable line that he produces, and then you know he does chickens as well, and is just killing it. He's doing great things, and needs the support. Ann Cure. Ann is my absolute favorite farmer. I want to be Ann when I grow up. She's so crazy talented. I look at her operation and I think, oh man, one day when I'm really good, I may look half as good as Ann does. She is just so, you know, insanely talented and so good. I have a friend who's you know, come into the restaurant. It's been a restaurant regular. A Nebraska wheat farmer right on the border, Tom Lures, who is made the big leap to switch into organic production, which, you know, for a large grain operation is kind of a scary thing. And his wheat is just like spectacular and amazing family, like just really salt of the earth, really fundamentally wonderful, you know, people. Little side thing, we blew through our wheat. We blew through a year's worth of wheat in a month. That's how busy the farm stand has been, right? And so now I'm, you know, calling in, you know, like calling friends. Tom, can you help me out? You know, I love your stuff. I trust you. I think you're doing great. Now, instead of you buying from me in the restaurant, can I buy from you off of your farm? You know, so that's special and you know, and wonderful, and you know, yeah, I'm feeling, you know, fortunate. And then of course, you know, Walt with you know, Fair Farms, his stuff is great. Another farmer down in Pueblo, Dan Hobbs, is incredibly talented, and his stuff is just, you know, drop dead gorgeous and, you know, crazy delicious. And, you know, Dan is one of the farmers who not only, you know, gives to his community, you know, by, you know, producing amazing leeks or carrots or whatever, you know, in the Pueblo and Colorado Springs market, but he gives to the farming community, you know, everywhere. And, you know, he was selling to a bunch of restaurants, and that, you know, is evaporated, you know, for him. And, you know, so I guess, you know, really the message or the take home is, you know, for any chef who's purchased from a small family farm, you know, either from the farmer's market or, you know, from, you know, directly from a farm, if you were purchasing from that farmer, then chances are that farmer doesn't have a way of selling their produce anymore. And it's really, really important to figure out how, you know, whether it's literally one bag of spinach at a time, you know, giving a shout out to, you know, the people producing the local chickens, or, you know, to the bags of spinach or whatever it is. And it doesn't matter. I mean, great farmers who need support, they need a helping hand, you know, right now here in the Boulder and Denver area, but it doesn't matter if it's here or if it's in Austin or if it's in, you know, Seattle or California. It's the same thing everywhere. And, you know, it's scary times, and knowing that the farmers can do that sort of trust fall into the arms of the people who really admire and appreciate their work, you know, that's that part is gold, you know. That's really
matters. The farm stand, I got your website. linked up. Are there hours, location for
Yes.
the farm stand on there? Okay, great.
Yeah, the farm stand hours are they're actually evolving. We're lengthening because the sales have been really really big. So it's from 10 until 6 at night, which is awesome. As the days get longer, and then people can expect the farm stand to stay open later. We'll inch it up to maybe 7 and then maybe 8 as we move further into the summer. And then I didn't mention before, but we also started Mabel the farm truck. So our second farm stand is in an old renovated ice cream truck, 1966 thing that sort of rumbles through the neighborhoods with ringing bells and
the new ice cream truck is a farm truck.
No push-up pops, no ice cream sandwiches, carrots, arugula, flour. We even have toilet paper on the truck, just in case, because everyone needs it or whatever. Right. And that is like, it's like Mayberry. It's like 1950s, and it's beautiful. And it's a beautiful moment where, we ring the bells, somebody waves, we pull the truck over in a neighborhood, and then they are buying their spinach. And then they get on the phone and they call all the neighbors. And then we end up with a line spontaneous of 20 neighbors who've been living side by side to each other, right? But they're not out and they're not talking, and everyone's socially distanced. They're all in the front yard and spread out, and everyone's asking, how are you? Are you doing okay? Can I do this for you? Blah, blah, blah. And we see those spontaneous moments burst in the neighborhoods one after another. MabelTheFarmTruck.com. And it's like it's a trip back in time, and we're loving it. It's super fun.
Awesome. Mabel spelled M-A-B-L-E or M-A-B-E-L?
E-L. Mabel E-L. TheFarmTruck.com. Yeah, and then we ask people to you can sign up and you can drop a pin, or you can put your address in, it drops a pin on a map, and then we're building the routes. Different day in different neighborhoods and that sort of thing.
Eric,
right? Crazy,
man, such an important conversation to have holistically in this time, at any time, to support a farmer. Selfishly, for me personally, I'm so excited to have this conversation because now I just want some spinach, man, so bad. So I'm excited that I get to come up to the farm stand, or I might just want to find Mabel somewhere, because that sounds like a ton of fun as well.
It's a blast.
I appreciate the time, because I know you got to get onto the tractor. So thank you for this. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for sharing, because even if we inspire 5 more people to go support a farmer who then text 5 more people, that can make a massive difference. So think about supporting one bag of spinach that you're going to have to fill yourself, because they don't come in bags sitting on the shelves. This is a bag that you're going to fill yourself with beautiful spinach. I really appreciate it. Eric Skokan, my friend, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, sir. Appreciate you. I'll see you at the farm stand soon.
Awesome.
Cheers. That's the guy talking about a peach and arugula and spinach and baby carrots. It's the best. It's the best. It's just, I wasn't joking when I said go talk to the guy at his farm stand now at the farmer's market. He's going to make you want to eat some delicious food, because the passion that went into it, the work that went into it, the delicious peak of flavor that he's talking about. It's the real deal, people. Like, don't sleep on it. It's the real deal. Go right now to a farmer. I also tagged Linnea Covington, who set this up with the help of Douglas Brown as well, set this up for us. So she wrote an article and connected Eric and I about farmers, how desperately they need the support right now, because if we don't support them today, they will not be here in September when we expect to get all that delicious produce. So make sure and get on it, people. Go. I'm serious. I'm going to check up on you. Go. We need it. All right. Tomorrow's episode, Chad Clevenger is coming on the show. One of my favorite people, period. Super talented chef. We're going to talk about Mexican cuisine for sure. The guy's a wealth of knowledge. Might talk about tequila a little bit. Today was a tequila day. Tomorrow might turn into a tequila day as well. And I'm excited. Just a good friend. He's in Atlanta, Georgia. He is the executive chef of Alma Casina. They have 2 locations in the Atlanta area. So we're going to catch up tomorrow. I appreciate you as always. Go support a farmer and get some spinach, people.